There is one psychological trigger that cult leaders, politicians, and the highest paid coaches in the world all use. And it's the reason why clients will chase you instead of you chasing them. And this trigger is behind every quote unquote result that I've ever had in any of my businesses that are worth mentioning, like generating over $100,000 in 90 minutes from a single virtual workshop to enrolling 5,000 clients in the last 10 years to now to date averaging around $102,750 every single month in sales. And I discovered this on accident over the years, and I just reverse engineered what I saw working from my content, from my marketing, from my workshops and masterclasses, everything that I was doing to try to generate sales. And I was able to find this one psychological trigger that was like the root of it all. It's almost like a trigger, if you will. When it hits, everything else in the sequence will follow. And in terms of business, that's getting more inbound leads from the marketing that you're already doing. That's getting more book calls or sales from the approach that you're already taking. And so let's go ahead and walk through this because the trigger is called cognitive dissonance. And I'm going to simplify this here in a minute. This isn't going to be a long psychological lesson or anything crazy. I'm going to show you how to apply this directly into your business. Basically, what cognitive dissonance is when somebody realizes that the thing that they've been doing contradicts the results that they actually want. And when you can do this effectively, when you can communicate this effectively, which I'm going to show you some examples, like their brain literally has to find the solution. It has to have it resolved. So it leaves this open loop in their mind. And this is what gets people to respond to you, to respond to your call to actions, to reach out to you, to want to book calls with you because they have to. It practically forces them to do it. So here's a real example from back in my fitness business. When I first figured this out, I was helping people lose stubborn belly fat. And everybody that came to me was like, Jason, I just need to diet better. I need to eat healthier. And if I just eat healthier and figure this out, I'll lose all the stubborn belly fat. And I was like, sure, but is it working? And I would literally shift their belief. And this is the forefront of all of this. And I would come in and I would say, no, 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 no. I'd say it's about eating right, not just healthy. And then people were like, what is that? And I would educate them in my marketing. I would say eating right is X, Y, and Z, right? I had my approach, my steps to doing that. And therefore, people were now like, huh. So I would tell stories around it. I would literally make my case for why they needed to learn how to eat right. And that subtle shift created dissonance in their mind to where they were like, well, dang, everything that I've been doing, trying to diet, trying to figure out how to eat healthier, all of this stuff is contradicting the results they said they want, which was stubborn belly fat. Therefore, they literally had to reach out to me to figure out how the hell do I do this, Jason? And then that's what my services provided to them. Does that make sense? And when I first figured this out, like the big aha for me was I did a video. It was a series. It was a couple posts that I made to promote this live masterclass that I was doing. And then I did the live masterclass and articulated all of this stuff. And after that masterclass was over, it was a Facebook Live. I had around 14 or 15 people DM me asking how to work with me. Like, it was insane, and that month was, like, my first big month, if you will, which back then, it was, like, around $33,383 in cash that month, and it was just, like, this life-changing event for me at the time because back then, I was struggling. I was it wasn't good, and so for me, it was like, "Whoa," and that's when I went down this rabbit hole being like, "Alright, I've gotta figure out how to recreate this," and so I did. And so here's the big shift right now, and then I'm gonna give you some examples on this, where I'm gonna show you like some tools that you can use on how to use this. Like for me, the big aha was that it's not just about teaching people education. Information is a commodity. You can go onto your phone right now and anybody can do this. So your ideal clients, they could pop open their phone, they can look up on Google or Chat GPT. It's like easy to find information to consume, it's easy to create information to put out there. It's not about just teaching people. It's not just about putting out the AI slop. If you want to survive in this AI revolution, the skill that you need to learn is how to disrupt beliefs. It's how to influence people. AI cannot create that for you. Like AK AI at this point, at least, it cannot create this dissonance in people. That is a human skill right now. It's a human to human thing because it comes from your own experiences. It comes from your own lived stories. It comes from your own real world examples. That's what makes it real for people. So you learning how to create this dissonance, how to create this influence, how to essentially disrupt their current thinking is what's going to get more people to want to reach out to you. It's going to get more people to want to quote unquote chase you. And so here are some tools that you can use, and this is part of my 8 core beliefs playbook. It's a full masterclass that I did. And so if you would like to get the whole masterclass in the playbook, the link will be in the description. But I call it creating a crack. And so when you're creating dissonance in somebody's mind, you want to think about it as if you are literally creating a metaphorical crack in their head. And this allows you to be able to start to plant the seed of a new belief. And so when in the first couple steps, if you want to see here, it's surfacing the belief. So we have to know what the core belief is before we can create a crack, before we can essentially shift the belief. And so an example here is like in my audience, people are like, my problem is I need more leads. If I just post more content, eventually it'll convert. Or I'm not just good at sales, right? And so then you want to agitate the consequence. So when you're making a video like this, when you're writing a post or an email, you could say something like, well, look, that's why you're posting daily, but you're still chasing DMs and you're starting to like agitate the consequence of their current belief. Does that make sense? And once you agitate that consequence, the next thing is going back to like the dissonance, it's creating that crack. This is where you're gently challenging the belief with the truth they can't ignore. Their brain has to go, wait, maybe my assumption is wrong. In this moment, when you're making content and marketing and even in the sales process, this is everything, my friend. And so the 5 tools that I've used to create dissonance, there's a lot more. And in fact, I originally learned a lot of this stuff from neurolinguistic programming, NLP. And there's a great book. It's a very hard read, in my opinion. It's called Sleight of Mouth. And so this is making sleight of mouth a bit more easy in again, for me at least. But these are some tools. So the first tool that you can use to create dissonance is redefining. So you can change the meaning of a word that they're using to justify their old belief. And so what redefining can look like, let's use weight loss, for example. Somebody might be like, hey, it's discipline. So you can say, you call it discipline. I call it punishing your body for a problem your metabolism created. So we're redefining the meaning of a word that they're using to justify an old belief. This is going to now challenge their current assumption. Another thing that we could do is consequence. Follow their belief to a logical end and show them where it actually leads. So consequence in weight loss could be like, hey, if cutting calories work long term, nobody would ever regain weight, but 95% do. Do you see that? We're literally following their belief to an end, so we show them where it leads, right? Which is going to get them to, it's going to challenge their thinking. A counter example. This is where we can give an undeniable example that makes the old belief impossible to defend. And so for a weight loss example, this could be like, hey, Sarah was 52 with PCOS. Her doctor said to accept it. She didn't. She went out there and she figured it out and she lost 30 pounds in 4 months. So this is where we're now showing a counter example to their belief. And now it gets them to, again, it's challenging their assumption. It's literally disrupting their current belief system. Applying to self, this is where you turn the logic back on itself so they see the contradiction. So how it might look here in an example for weight loss is you say you don't have time, but you have time for 3 hours of Netflix every night. So we're applying it back to something that they're already currently doing so they could clearly see the contradiction. And then chunking up. This is where we're zooming out to a bigger truth that makes the old belief look small. And sticking to our weight loss example, this could be like, hey, this isn't about losing 20 pounds. This is about whether your kids grow up watching you take care of yourself or give up. And so once we've disrupted that thought, we've essentially created the metaphorical crack in their head, we can then start to plant the new belief. We can reframe the entire problem. And then basically all we're doing in our marketing and in our sales is we're backing it up with evidence. And this is where there's a lot of tools. And again, if you want to download the full playbook in the masterclass I did, feel free to click the link in the description. But in essence here, what we want to do is we want to back up the belief. So going back to the example that I used for weight loss, it was eating healthy versus eating right. My new belief was that you needed to eat right. So once I created that crack and I did it in many different ways, as I showed you, there's 5 that I've mainly used. I would then plant the seed. And the way I did that was I was like, "Hey, eating right means you gotta dial in your calories, you gotta get your foods right for your proportions right for fat loss, and you've got to eat the right foods." And then I would tell stories. I would tell a story about a client who did it. I would tell my own story about going through that same battle and figuring out how to lose my stubborn belly fat. I would go through each of these things and I would back it up. And so by the time I was done, I would have people lined up in my DMs when I figured this out. And they were asking how to work with me. They were like, dude, tell me, like, I've been thinking about this all wrong. And all of a sudden, I was now in demand. I was able to fill up my online fitness program with 150 clients, and I able to do multiple 6 figures within that business before I sold it. And so that, my friend, is how. That is the psychological trigger that you can use at any point to be able to get clients to chase you instead of you chasing them. So I would recommend you go through this video a couple times, really let it sink in. And if you have any questions for me about how to use this, drop them in the comments below. And make sure to click subscribe if you want to get more videos on this topic, the psychology of what makes people buy, of what makes people say yes.